Today we're going to be taking a look at the Bull Pro from Cyelee Optics. Dong, ding dong, ding dong. So a little while back, I was contacted by Cyelee Optics, and they asked if I wanted to check out any of their red dot sights. So I took a look at their catalog to see what they had to offer, and I noticed this Bull Pro. So you can tell that this is a little bit different than your typical mini red dot sight. Not quite the same as an RMR or a Holosun 507 or a 407. It's a little bit bigger. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It has a larger window on it, so you know, a little bit better to see through there. And a lot of the reviews I've seen on the Cyelee Optics are done on pistols, which makes a lot of sense for this type of optic, but I thought it'd be interesting to try it out on a shotgun, because a shotgun, recoil-wise, takes a little bit more or different types of abuse than you would from a pistol. So I mounted it up on this Mossberg 590A1 and took it to a couple range trips, shot full power and reduced recoil slugs and buckshot through it the whole time, a few hundred rounds. And I tried to simulate some of the typical damage an optic like this would take under fairly normal circumstances. So smashing it against surfaces, dropping it from shoulder height, leaning it against things, tipping it over, dropping it on the optic. And I didn't want to just go ahead and take a hammer and start smashing this, because if you try hard enough, you can break anything. I wasn't trying to break it. I was trying to see how well it would hold up under normal-ish conditions. And that's what I did. So you can see here, it's mounted on an Aridus Industries RMR footprint mount directly onto this 590A1. And let's talk about the Bull Pro, and let's start with how it was received in the package. So the packaging was fairly typical for an optic such as this. Very informative on the outside of the box, had a lot of information ready to go as far as some of the specs, the water resistance, and even the torque specs for installation. And then inside of the box came with even more information on how to install it, and even some more troubleshooting information, which is great, which I'm sure helps them a lot with customer questions and kind of getting that info available right out of the gate. One of the documents you're going to find inside of this box is a little picture of the Bull Pro mounted on top of a pistol slide. And you can see here, it shows that the Bull Pro kind of overhangs the ejection port area a little bit, and that could potentially become an issue on your firearm. So that is something that you want to keep in mind if you do plan on using this with a pistol. Now, inside of the box, it came with a generous assortment of screws and screw lengths, depending on the type of mount you are going to be installing it onto. And this did not come with any type of 1913 mount by itself. You just get the optic in there with the tools you need to adjust it, and various screws for, again, whatever mount you choose to purchase for it. I ended up going with the Aridus Industries RMR mount for my Mossberg 590A1, and the screws provided made it very easy for me to get this installed. And just to back things up a little bit, before installing the Bull Pro onto the mount, I did check the weight. It came in at 2.5 ounces, which is pretty light for a micro or a mini red dot at this size. And compared to the HelloSun 508T, you can see it's definitely larger, and it is designed to be larger than your standard mini dots. So you can kind of see on the front and the rear, it has like a skeleton or a cage that protects the glass from any type of damage or impact, which is one of the design features of this optic. And then I wanted to see how this would fit on a Safariland LS holster. This is typically what I use for my pistols with optics mounted to them. And you can see here that the Bull Pro is not going to work for this particular application. You would need a holster that is completely cut out for the optic and doesn't shroud it at all in order to run the Bull Pro. Not a huge deal. If you did want a smaller optic, Cyelee does have smaller options available for that purpose. So as you saw, I installed the Bull Pro using a torque wrench, using the 15 inch-pounds of torque. I used some blue thread locker on there, did everything to spec, and took it out to the range. Upon zeroing it, a couple things I noticed. The first thing was the windage and elevation adjustments. If you notice on here, these screws are very small. And see if I can get closer and keep it in focus there. These screws are very small, and there's a little flathead in there. Now, in the box is a tool that will work perfectly for these, but if you happen to forget that, you will need a very small, fine, flathead screwdriver to make your adjustments for windage and elevation. The other thing I noticed was that there were no audible or tactile clicks. So when adjusting my elevation and windage, I just kind of had to guess approximately how many clicks or adjustments I was going based on those hash marks. Now, I spoke with some others that have these optics, and some of them said that either their windage or elevation would have audible and tactile clicks. So it seems like it's just a consistency issue. It didn't seem to affect the actual ability to hold zero, but it would be preferential to have those clicks when you're making adjustments so you know exactly how much you're going up, down, left, or right. So let's talk about the torture testing. Like I mentioned previously, I didn't want to just destroy this thing right out the gate. I wanted to simulate actual damage that an optic like this could receive. So the first thing I did was there was some 4x4 posts over at my range, and I just kind of whacked this against it. And I gave it a few pretty good whacks on that post, and this is kind of simulate you're walking through a hallway, something like that. Maybe you're catching a door frame, and if you've worked inside of structures or you've done any type of CQB work, this is a very common type of abuse that a rifle or any firearm with an optic could take. And at first I thought there was a shift in the zero because I noticed that it no longer co-witnessed with the iron sights that are on the shotgun. But then I realized that the actual screw in the rear of the air dismount came loose and the rear sight kind of shifted on there. So the Bull Pro held up its zero for these 3 hits, no problem. And I did test this on paper in between the hits just to make sure it was maintaining zero. And then the next test I did was the tip over test, where I'm kind of simulating you have the shotgun leaning against something. Maybe it's the tailgate of your truck, a table, bench, whatever the case may be, and it tips over and falls directly onto the optic. And I did this with a fully loaded magazine tube inside saddle, nothing in the chamber for safety purposes. But I did that 3 times, let it fall directly on the optic, and again, no issues with zero retention or damage to the glass or the actual structure of the Bull Pro. And what would a torture test be without a drop directly onto the optic? So I dropped it from about carry height directly onto the optic itself. And this one surprised me the most of all the torture testing, because I thought for sure I was going to see some sort of dents or damage to the housing, possibly even cracked glass. And I saw really none of that, other than some scratches in the aluminum and some finish removed. The Bull Pro was still good to go, still retained 0. So this was the end of day 1. And still had some questions, wanted to test out a few more things, run some more ammo for it, and that's where day 2 comes in. All right, so day 2 was a continuation of the testing and the shooting of the 590A1 with the Cyelee Bull Pro. Now keep in mind, I wasn't just taking this out to torture test. I was running drills in addition to the torture testing, because why waste the ammo? Might as well get some good training out of it. So I was doing that, and then in between I had my torture testing. So the first torture testing of day 2 was there was just a little bench available there, and again I kind of whacked the optic a few times, similar to what I did on day 1 with the 4x4 posts. And of course, no issues with the little bench there. I checked the 0 on day 2. I was basically shooting at 25 yards onto like a 6-inch steel plate. So I was able to hit that, no problem. And I continued on with the shooting and the torture testing. At this point, I've already done a bunch of shooting, a bunch of different torture tests, dropped it a bunch of different ways, and I was kind of running out of ideas. What I ended up doing is I found a rock there and just kind of gave it a few whacks on that. A little bit harder surface than the wood or the dirt. And to no surprise, had no issues. Maintained 0. That didn't seem to affect the Cyelee Bull Pro at all. So as far as I'm concerned with the testing I did, which what I would consider reasonable torture testing, it survived no problem. So let's talk about some closing thoughts on the Cyelee Optics Bull Pro. Obviously, it survived the testing. You can see here, there are some battle scars on there, some scratches, some gouges, some finish removed, but at the end of the day, the optic is still going strong. As you can see, it's maintained its shape. It's not bent or broken. The glass is nice and fresh, no cracks in it. So as far as ruggedability, if that's a word, it's got it. A lot of mini red dots fail in this category because the glass is connected to the exterior of that body, and when that body takes that impact, it transfers directly to the glass, where the Bull Pro has this kind of almost like a cage built around it to the front and the rear. The glass is connected to this middle portion here, so it's not taking that impact, and you can see the majority of the scratches are right up here. So these pieces here, what I would guess, are actually flexing independently of that main center housing there, and that is what makes this optic so heavy duty for a mini red dot. The price point is really good. It's going to be about half of some similar optics from competitors, especially those competition size optics that give you that larger window compared to the more traditional mini dots. Cyelee gave me a code. It's RobBull20 that you can use on their Amazon store to save 20% off of this. So that really puts that price point at a great in a great spot there. So price, awesome. The included screws is very helpful. I've had this before where I order a red dot, it comes in, and then whatever mount I'm going to use with it, I never have the right screws. So I got to now order screws, wait for those to come in before I get it mounted up. This came with a bunch of different screws, so That's awesome to have, saves me a lot of trouble. I love all the information that was included with it. Didn't have to search the interwebs for how to install it, what to do, how to adjust the windage and elevation, all that stuff. So a lot of good information there. Came with all the tools you needed to install it, other than a torque wrench, which I would recommend torquing it to the proper specs. But yeah, so all good there. Downsides is that the size of the windage and elevation adjustment, that tiny little flathead, you need that special flathead it comes with, or a similarly sized flathead screwdriver to get in there and make those adjustments. It would be nice to use a common tool like a piece of brass, or even just a normal screwdriver to make those adjustments. The other downside is not having those audible and tactile clicks when making adjustments. Kind of just had to guess how much I was going based off the hash marks on there, which it still worked. It didn't negatively affect the zero process, but similarly priced optics have that feature, those clicks when you're adjusting it, and I would really like to see that on this optic as well. The size of the optic could be a pro or a con depending on the application you intend on using this with. If you're putting it on a pistol, I would maybe say go with a smaller option from Cyelee Optics, depending on the holster you're running. If you're running just like a Kydex holster that's completely cut off from the ejection port up, it's not going to be a problem. But for me, this is not going to work on the Safariland ALS holsters I have. Not a big deal, because for me, the perfect application for this optic is to run it on an SMG, to run it forward mounted on an AK or a similar firearm where it's going to be forward and you don't really want a big old bulky optic up there weighing down your front end. So perfect for a lot of applications that a normal little mini red dot might be a little bit too small. So that window, very generous on there so that you can see a little bit more through there. You can pick up the red dot a little bit quicker and more efficiently for, you know, some rifle work, carbine work, PDW work. So at the end of the day, the Cyelee Optics Bull Pro, in my opinion, is a great option, a rugged option that you know is going to take that abuse. And depending on the application that you are intending to use it on, this could be the best choice for you. So let me know what you think about the Cyelee Bull Pro down in the comments below. And thanks for watching.